7.
Please press button now. No, number 1.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornbluth, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Good to have you with us on this big Thursday night Sports Talk across the state of South Carolina. Phil Kornbluth, Chris Bergen, Pat Daniel, and you can join us, 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number here on Sports Talk. For those of you listening to us on one of our great affiliates across the state of South Carolina, or maybe you're getting us on one of our quality streams as we stream the program on Twitter, on YouTube at Sports Talk Media Network, on Facebook at Sports Talk Media Network. So if you can't find us over the airwaves from one of your stations, for whatever reason, you can always find us from a streaming standpoint. We're glad to have you there as well. You can always shoot us an email through one of our stream connections, and we'll answer those emails as they come in as best we can, questions and comments. Again, the phone number, 888-898-2525. That is the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number here for you on Sports Talk tonight. Mike Morgan will join us a little bit after 7 o'clock, and we'll get to that interview. We didn't get to it last night. We got a little bit backed up. We'll get to it tonight, the interview with Dale Jarrett that I recorded earlier this week.
Oh, cool.
Well, you knew I did that interview.
I know, but I mean, I would have missed it last night, so I'm glad you saved it for my return.
Well, yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Actually, it's our post-anniversary gift to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And you talked to Kyle Larson today.
I did. Fascinating discussion with him. Really interesting guy, and one of the better drivers on the circuit right now. It feels like he's got 2 wins, and he feels like his team has been much, much better than that. He talks in the interview about all the different times they've gone to the racetrack, and he believes it's always been with the fastest car. They just had no luck. Case in point, this past weekend at Dover, where you have 2 guys who get into a little scuffle and run into one another, and he's not involved until one of the cars comes up the track, and there's no place for him to go.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of that's been what he feels is his luck when he's not won. He's finished about 35th, but looking forward to Darlington. He says that's one of the ones he'd like to cross off his bucket list. He's been close a couple of times over at the Lady in Black, but never has come through in victory lane. So he'd like to land there, and he's going to run both the Xfinity Series race on Saturday and also, of course, the Goodyear 400 next Sunday.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it just like one of the races last year or 2 years ago where he was like in really good shape to win, and then Logano did something and kind of punted him or something and went by him, if my memory's right?
He's finished second, I believe, twice. Second once, maybe third another time. So he's been in the running to try and win that race. He's led a lot of laps at Darlington. Says he loves the track, because they all do. It's fun no matter which race driver you talk to, and they understand, hey, I'm talking to folks in South Carolina. Let's make sure Darlington understands we all love the track. But I think most of those guys really do. He brought up a point when I was chatting with him today about the fact that I like the harder racetracks. And he said there's none harder than Darlington. So he says when it gets more difficult, that's when he feels like he shines. And so I thought that was a really informative answer. We'll try and get that up on the website here in the next day or so. And we'll certainly bring that to you here on the program in the next few days leading up to next weekend.
All right, couple of big stories, one here in the state, one in the region. Clemson gets a basketball transfer from UNC Greensboro. He's a big guy, 6'10", Bass Lida. And he comes from UNC Greensboro, averaged about 7.5 points, a little over 4 rebounds per game this past season. So the Tigers add another from the transfer portal, John, to their program. That's 3 from the portal, John, going to Clemson. Of course, they've got Jack Clark coming from NC State, and they've got the guard transferring from Air Force. They have 1 high school player coming in as well, and Asa Thomas, 6'7" player. So the reconstruction of the Clemson basketball roster is getting pretty much complete. at this point with this addition. So you've got, and this is a grad transfer as well, because he put in his time at Greensboro and now he will be at Clemson. And that gives the Tigers, that would be 4 that you would list as seniors next year: PJ Hall, Alex Hemingway, Jack Clark, and Bass Lida. And then you've got Ian Shefflin and the transfer from Air Force, the guard, Jake Heidbreder, and then Chase Hunter. So that's 7 on the roster. And then you have Chauncey Wiggins, Joshua Beadle, Dylan Hunter, and RJ Godfrey. So that gives you 4, 7,
11.
That gives you 11. Asa Thomas makes 12. So they got room for one more at this point in time. They've got room for one more if they decide to go after somebody. They lose Hunter Tyson. They lose Chauncey Gibson. They lose Brevin Galloway. They lose Ben Middlebrooks. So
I think they replaced today, Phil. I mean, if you look at the stat line and the size and the whole 9 yards, Lida is almost Ben Middlebrooks 2.0.
Yeah. Very similar. I looked at some video of him doing a little research, doing a little analysis. He's definitely a around the basket type player. Didn't see much video of him wandering outside the paint. He's very good. If you can get him the ball down low, he's got some nice moves around the basket and a nice size. But I didn't see much in the video. And when we do recruiting, we'll run some video highlights of him. I didn't see much of a face the basket, turn, and take a jump shot type of approach.
No, it's just judging by his stats, and that's about all I think we can glean. He shot, I believe it was 54% as a junior for UNC Greensboro. And anytime you see a kid that's 6'10", shooting in excess of 50, almost 60% from the field, my guess is he's on the block, turns, and scores. I mean, that's pretty much his game, because I think I'd have to go back and double check, but he may have taken 15 threes this past season at UNCG, so that's really not in his repertoire. What he does like to do is get the ball around the basket and score. And I think if you're Clemson, that's fine too. I've got enough outside shooters. Let me get some guys who can score off the block. And evidently that's the route that Brad Brownell thinks that Lida can help his team with.
All right. The other big piece of news comes from the SEC, and this shocked everybody. Alabama fired baseball coach Brad Bohannon for, quote, among other things, violating the standards, duties, and responsibilities expected of university employees. Now, this comes on the heels of news that sports books in Ohio and New Jersey and now Pennsylvania have all halted betting on the Crimson Tide baseball team as an investigation continues into suspicious betting activity on last Friday's Alabama LSU game. So I don't know. There's been no reporting on what it is that they uncovered. The one good thing that comes out of all this is that it's nice to know that in Las Vegas, they have an agency that is keeping a very close watch on betting all across the country. And as more betting opens up in states where betting has not been welcomed in the past, more and more states are, of course, opening up for live betting on all levels of sports. But the good thing is there's an agency or an organization in Vegas that watches very closely what's happening at these sports books. If they see something unusual, they're throwing a flag, and they are suspending the process of betting for that particular game. So something set off a flag in Friday's Alabama LSU game. Nobody has said what, but apparently it's being chased. It's being traced back to the Alabama baseball program and all the way to the head coach.
When is the last time we had a really good betting gambling scandal in college athletics? I mean, obviously the most notable one in baseball is Pete Rose in his situation, still banished from trying to get into the Hall of Fame and banished from baseball. But Phil, this story has just fascinated me since it broke last weekend.
To answer your question, there may have been something more recent, but Teddy Dupay, the basketball guard at Florida, remember, ran into a lot of trouble from a gambling standpoint. That's one that comes to mind in the relative recent past. There may be something else, but to go ahead with what you were saying.
Well, there are two pieces that I thought were interesting. First, ESPN.com has an interesting story about this. They talked to Ronnie Johns, who's the executive director of the Louisiana Gaming Control Board, and he described one of the bets as, quote, large. to NOLA.com and added that he didn't suspect anything suspicious regarding LSU. Then he goes on to say the problem would have been whether someone on the Alabama side was suspicious of activity. Well, the Athletics this afternoon said, as you pointed out, it was surrounding game one. And the interesting part of this is that Alabama projected starting pitcher for that ball game was Luke Holman. They held him out of the game due to back tightness and started a right-hander, Hagan Banks, in his place. And Alabama was down, of course, 8-1 in that game through 7 innings. So, I mean, you have to sort of piecemeal this together because Alabama says they're not going to. They've really started to do a nice job of not telling anybody anything in the wake of Nate Oates and the horrible handling he had with his basketball team. But I mean, what is going on down in Alabama?
Didn't they just have an administrator in the athletic department run afoul of something too?
Yeah, Matt Self, their deputy athletic director. I've got all these stories pulled up because it's just fascinating me with Alabama. He was arrested on Sunday and charged with third-degree domestic violence. I have no idea what's going on down in Tuscaloosa, but somebody's got to get a handle on that program. And they fire their head coach today, and you start piecemealing this together. And was Brad Bohannon, was he betting against his team? Because college baseball, and I found this fascinating too, several sports books don't even take bets on college baseball because they're so rare.
Yeah.
And this evidently stood out like a sore thumb.
So they held the starting pitcher out allegedly because of back issues. They put in another pitcher and they fall behind. They're down 8-1. Now we'd have to take a look at what was the spread. Were they betting whoever was the betting on the spread? Was it on the over under? I don't know. Does any information on what it was about the gambling that was leaning one way that raised the attention of the Las Vegas people who caught this?
That I have not seen. And in fairness to Alabama, all three of those ball games were fairly competitive. Even in that first game when they were down 8-1, they rallied back and only lost 8-6. So my guess is LSU was favored in all three of those games. But I mean, I can't figure it. If you can figure out baseball betting lines, you're a much smarter person than I am.
But I mean, if you simply don't start your expected starting pitcher, all right, because he allegedly has a back issue. I mean, come on, that happens all the time. I mean,
exactly.
Pitchers break down, like like old cars, they just break down all the time. So, I mean, are they suggesting that they purposely held out the starting pitcher there to somehow influence the outcome of the game, to somehow, influence the gambling on that game?
If you read the Athletic story, that's the only conclusion I think you can draw from that, is that because they didn't start their ace, their Friday night guy in game one against LSU, that obviously Brad Bohannon had some nefarious ideas. He was going to lay a lot of money down on LSU. And here's a guy making $250,000 base salary to begin with. I mean, it's just this whole story is just fascinating to me because, like I said earlier, we don't get a whole lot of gambling and sports issues, especially college baseball. I mean, the Pete Rose situation was, 30 years ago, and we still talk about it to this day. I don't know if Brad Bohannon is going to go down that road, and he'll be remembered as the Alabama guy who allegedly bet against or on his own team. Who knows? Even if he's involved.
Pat's got more.
One more, just small addition to what you were saying, Chris. One more quote from that Louisiana Gaming Control Board's chairman, Ronnie Johns. He said, where'd it go? One was on, so you're talking about these bets. They were made specifically in Cincinnati, Ohio. One was on a parlay, which involved the LSU-Alabama game. And then there was another straight up or, quote, money line bet. I was told it was a large bet that involved LSU-Alabama. They all had LSU winning. He goes on to say, though, that those specific bets were made during that hour leading up to the ball game after they had announced that they were changing the starting pitcher. So after that was decided was when these bets came in. Again, I don't want to, this is all speculation, but if I'm reading between the lines there, that sure sounds like they're hinting at the fact that they think that this coach, somebody close to him, somebody involved, or somebody around him must have made those wagers.
Well, yeah. That
all
would
I can
be
take
common
from that.
sense. But then again, I'm not a gambler. I'm a $5, $10 college football online, throw down a couple of things there and try and just have some fun on a weekend. So I don't have the gambler's mind. But I mean, if you are a gambler and you want to gamble on college baseball, which I guess is legal in Cincinnati, home of Pete Rose, um, and you're looking at the Alabama LSU game, and you see whether it's in an hour before or 2 hours or 30 minutes that they are not starting the starting pitcher because of an injury, allegedly, and they're bringing in somebody out of the bullpen. I mean, as a gambler, wouldn't you then think, okay, well, I'm going to put more money down on LSU because they are likely to hammer this guy coming out of the bullpen starting on short notice. They're likely to beat him up pretty good. This sounds like a pretty easy bet to me. I mean, that's how my gambling mind would think there if I were a gambler.
Understandable, but I'm thinking on the other side of the coin, this may actually have been insider information. Maybe Brad Bohannon, or their head coach, goes to a buddy of his and says, "Hey, by the way, our starter is not going to pitch tonight. I won't make this announcement until the lineup cards are exchanged about an hour before the ball game. You go ahead and make a bet and put a lot of money on LSU because once this is announced, the line's going to change considerably, awfully quickly. So go ahead and get it to, at 7 runs or whatever the case may be." I don't know, but it seems like, and Kendall Rogers even tweeted out from D1 Baseball about the same thing, that the investigation's evidently centering around the head coach at Alabama.
Yeah.
So, the NCAA is probably the least of his concerns. He may be worried about the feds checking in on this.
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent point. I mean, if they trace it back to that, then you got a real problem. That's for sure. I'm just thinking about an at-large, typical gambler looking at it. Okay, and then one other piece of news today. Talking to Coach Reggie Kennedy over at Manning High School. He was the coach of Montague Rames when Rames was a senior at Manning before Rames signed with South Carolina. You know that Rames has been suspended. And just checking in on him, South Carolina coaches were by, when I say coaches, recruiters, were by the school last week. And, of course, they were talking about the situation. And they, as we all know from what Shane Beamer has said, there's nothing the football team can do right now. There's nothing the university can do right now because, first of all, the legal side of this has to be settled one way or another. But one thing that he did say that was interesting is there is a possibility, maybe a good possibility, that Rames will enroll at a junior college this fall because the way things are right now, if he's able to, let's say, get the opportunity to reapply, because remember, he's been kicked out of school. So suspended from the football team, dismissed from school. He has to reapply to the university. If he gets that opportunity, right now, that's not scheduled until September. And so, he's going to miss all the camp, and he's not going to play anyway this year at South Carolina. I see no way that he would play at South Carolina under the current circumstances. So junior colleges have been calling, and there is a possibility that Rames could enroll at one of those junior colleges sometime, I guess, later on this summer, which is probably the smart thing for him to do. He could be re-recruited. Of course, he could go there attached to South Carolina if they wanted to make sure that they got him back. They could put him at Jones, which has been a good place for them, or East Mississippi, which has been a good place for them to put players, and you get them back. And, he can let I got to believe from from what I've read and what the police reports state, Rames did a very stupid thing allegedly, and in trying to hide the weapon and get the weapon off of campus. That was his role in this thing. He just did something juvenile and stupid. But I don't think he did anything evil, and I don't think that it's a situation where he should not, after further review by the university, the way I see it, if he meets all the other requirements. And I can't imagine that. And again, I'm speaking out of school here because I don't know what's going to happen. I can't imagine he's going to get any sort of major penalty from the judicial system. I think a first-time offender and that sort of thing, if you got a good record, you can have it expunged. You go do public service and all that kind of stuff. I could see all that happening. But going to junior college and having a chance to play and practice and play versus sitting out the year might be a good thing for him if it were to come to that. So that is something that is a real possibility for him. Now, Anthony Rose is the one that's got the greater problem, because it was his rifle that they were trying to hide. And then the third member here, was it Upshaw, Cameron Upshaw, I think it was. he's the juvenile in this case, but I think he's got the least of the issues because he wasn't charged with anything. He was just the driver, and I don't think they really charged him with anything. So that is a situation with that. It's unfortunate for all involved because they could certainly use a talented defensive end because they are thin in that area right now.
No, you're right, Phil. But here's another situation of a hard lesson that you have to learn. Life, my father-in-law says this all the time. Life is about choices. And you make a bad choice, you've got to deal with the consequences. And unfortunately for Montague Rames and the other guys involved, they made a bad choice just bringing the rifle on campus. And it makes zero sense to begin with. And now they've got to deal with it. And you hope they learn from it and move on. And hopefully, who knows, maybe he's back in a Gamecock uniform in another year or so.
Yeah. Okay, the phone number, 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. Love to hear from you after we come back from the break. We'll open the lines up. And did you know that since 2002, more than $6 billion in lottery proceeds have been used to support South Carolina educational programs? Learn more about the South Carolina Education Lottery's impact at sceducationlottery.com/education wins. Playing for fun is a win for education. Lines are open if you want to grab one. We'll be back in a moment.
Imagine a scrapbook filled with all your favorite memories of 75 years of NASCAR gone by. Now imagine that scrapbook going 190 miles per hour.
Have you ever? No, I've never.
You don't have to imagine it. You need to get to Darlington, where the drivers of today tackle the track too tough to tame, just like they did your first time. NASCAR Throwback Weekend at Darlington Raceway, May 12th through the 14th. Get your tickets today at darlingtonraceway.com.
Hi, folks. This is Mike Morgan. I want to tell you about an exciting new product from my friends at Vision Air Solutions. Staying healthy in my line of work is so critical, and probably in yours as well. A large factor in all that is making sure we're breathing in healthy and safe air every day. That's where Vision Air Solutions comes in. They make sure your home has air purification for all the air pollution you can't see. Viruses, mold, bacteria, stale odors, cooking smells, and volatile organic compounds. They make sure your home is full of clean air and also offer HVAC duct cleaning and sanitation as well. Make sure you and your family are breathing clean air today by giving Vision Air Solutions a call today. 803-220-1811. That's 803-220-1811. Tell them Mike sent you.
Hey, you might notice Corn's in a pretty good mood tonight. Why? Why is he in a good mood? 50 3-point attempts, more or less, by the Celtics last night, and they hit a good bunch of them. That's what I'm talking about. That looked more like my Boston Celtics last night. So glad that.
So is that your good luck Chicago Blackhawks hat you have on in honor of the Celtics winning last night?
It was clean.
I like the hat, though.
It was hanging there.
The hat.
Yeah. Not many people would recognize it as a Chicago Blackhawk hat, but Kevin Cohen did this morning, and you've recognized it today. Obviously, a couple of hockey fans.
Yes, sir.
So we got one game tonight, and then we go back to the double headers every other day, which is good. That's what I like. One game tonight. It should be a dandy. Lakers and the Warriors in San Fran. What's interesting, they pointed this out last night on TNT. Now 15 consecutive games where the home team lost game one. Last night was the 15th consecutive time the home team won game two.
Wow.
Which tells me two things. A, that home team comes out really energized and focused and ready to play defense in particular. And two, the visiting team that got that first win kind of feels like, we've done what we were supposed to do here. If we lose game two, it's okay. We're going to go home with at least a split, and that's what we want.
Too. And I found something fascinating last night. I was scrolling through TV, and it's on the bottom line, ESPN, and they're ridiculous. The FPI and the BPI, the Basketball Power Index and the like, said that the Lakers have a 50% chance to win game two.
Yeah.
Well,
really?
Wouldn't that mean the Warriors have a 50% chance to win as well?
Yeah, but it's more fun to talk about the Lakers because that's what all the cool kids do in Los Angeles, because their studios are right across the street from the arena there, so they get to, high five all the Lakers as they're going into the locker room. We'll be back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. A few clouds rolling in this evening. Our low temp dips to 49. Tomorrow, increasing clouds throughout the day. A 20% chance we get some evening rain. The high is 77. For the weekend, Saturday, we'll have a better than 50% chance we get rain. Cooler with a high of 71. But on Sunday, after some morning rain, it's nicer with a high back up to 81. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
Are you looking for free checking and free savings? Dave Ramsey here, telling you to go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank that's so big they lose the ability to treat you like a human being. At Palmetto Citizens, you're not just a number, you're a member. Join today at any of their 14 locations or at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting a bipartisan group of senators recently introduced legislation aiming to prohibit all children under the age of 13 from using social media. It would also require permission from a guardian for users under 18 to create an account. It's one of several proposals in Congress seeking to make the internet safer for children and teens. Uncertainty continues to pummel the banking industry despite assurances from financial regulators and bankers that the worst of the recent crisis is over and the banking system remains strong. Shares of smaller regional lender PacWest Bank plunged nearly 50% Thursday after the company confirmed reports that it was considering strategic options that may include the possible sale of the company. Wall Street fell again today, the Dow dropping 286 points, the Nasdaq lower by 58. More details at srnnews.com.
There's more than one kind of customer when it comes to Shooter's Choice. First, there's the customer who knows what's what, has a pretty good idea of what he or she likes. You're looking for a few things. First, a good selection. Yep, Shooter's Choice has a huge selection. Firearms, ammo, accessories, optics, even gun safes. You're looking for good and fair pricing. Oh yeah, Shooters has been around as your local stop forever because they treat you right. And how about customer service? Absolutely the best you'll find anywhere. The folks who work at Shooter's Choice are shooters and hunters just like you. They know their products. They can answer your question. And that brings me to the other type of customer. Someone maybe more like me. No expert for sure, but wants to learn from the right people. I don't need some big box store guy who works in the shoe department half a week, sporting goods the other half. I need the experts at Shooter's Choice who will treat me right, answer my questions as simple as they might be. They'll make my experience excellent. Online, it's shooterschoicesc.com or visit them in person on Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia. Make it your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
It's May. It's always a great time to show love to our fur babies. May also includes Be Kind to Animals Week. The Columbia Animal Shelter encourages you to adopt a dog or cat in May. And from the 8th through the 13th, you can adopt for only $5. Go to petfinder.com and choose your newest family member. The weather is great. It's a perfect time to bring that puppy or kitty cat home. Be a hero. $5 adoptions from the Columbia Animal Shelter. Visit petfinder.com and be kind to animals.
Are you worn out from wall-to-wall political talk? Instead of hearing more about the stuff in Washington that's mostly out of your control, I'll give you the tools to actually take control of your money and your life. Dave Ramsey here. Join me right here on The Point. I'm live and taking your calls weekdays at 2 p.m. I'll teach you how to get on a written plan that actually works, get out of debt, and build wealth. Weekdays at 2 p.m. The Dave Ramsey Show at 100.7 The Point.
It's the Cigar Militia, Columbia's premium cigar store. It's that time of year. It's golf weather. Are you going golfing this weekend? Be the guy bringing the sticks, not the guy that borrows. Come by and refill your humidor or just pull off the interstate for a smoke and a cold beverage. Our friendly and knowledgeable staff will help you. You can be a novice or a seasoned veteran. Our friendly staff will walk you through the humidor and answer your questions. We're at 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard next to the Melting Pot.
Pardon me, ma'am. Are you interested in lowering your energy usage and saving money?
Make it quick.
Did you know that Dominion Energy offers heating and cooling rebates up to $750?
That's a lot of money.
Yes, it is. And it comes in handy if your system fails and you need a replacement.
Any restrictions?
For starters, your new equipment must be Energy Star qualified.
That's a good thing.
Go to DominionEnergySC.com and click Save Energy.
DominionEnergySC.com it is. Thanks for the tip.
Certain restrictions apply.
Could we have been somebody else if we'd taken a right turn? Or if we'd just...
We're back on Sports Talk here on the Sports Talk Media Network on a Thursday night. Phil Kornbluth, Pat Daniel here at our studios in Columbia. Chris Bergen from the Berge Palace, the beautiful Berge Palace there in Sardis. And our phone number, 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. Before we do anything else, I want to remind you that vacation season is right here. It's time. It's time to go vacation. I know some people going on vacation next week. I don't want to, publicize all that right now, but I know some people who go on vacation like in the middle of May. You can do the same thing, and or if you're looking at June, July, August, whatever the case for your vacation needs, make one phone call to get it all done. Lickety split, 843-237-4246. That is direct to James Smith at James Smith Realty in Pawleys Island. And let Jimmy and his gang take good care of you and your needs. You need something that's large to handle a bunch of folks, they can get you that. You need something a little smaller just to handle you and the missus, or you and the mister, whatever the case happens to be. They can put you in that as well. They'll make you very comfortable and very happy. Now, if you're looking to buy property at the beach, well, give Jimmy a call as well, because they are turning over the dirt and they are turning over the property left and right, and they'll find exactly what it is that you're looking for. Phone number, 843-237-4246, online at PawleysVacationRentals.com. Get out there and get it done. Don't delay, or you'll be left sitting on the beach,
especially now,
in the sun, getting a sunburn without having a place to go and get out of the sun.
I rode by his office on Saturday, and they were busy on Saturday. So they're taking reservations, it appears, left and right. So do not waste any more time. If you haven't made a reservation, you've already procrastinated enough.
Yeah. They work 7 days a week. Jimmy never takes a day off.
It's incredible. They had cars all in the parking lot. Yeah. By the way, quick follow-up on the Alabama situation. ESPN's got a follow-up story saying now they've got sportsbooks surveillance video that indicated that the person who actually placed the bets for or against Alabama, I'm not sure which, was communicating allegedly with Bohannon, their head coach at the time. I don't know how this works. If they're looking at the video and they can hear that person, or he's on, he's talking to some phone number and they're able to trace it and figure out that Coach Bohannon's cell phone was being used at that exact time, calling that number. I have no idea, but this thing is getting crazy.
It is. Well, obviously Alabama knows something, or they would not have just come out of the blue and fired the guy. And Alabama plays a series beginning tonight at home against none other than Vanderbilt. So good luck with that. Okay, phone number 888-898-2525. Let's go to Simon up in Greenville. And it's good to have you with us, Simon. Let's see what Simon says. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, gentlemen. I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Terrific. Appreciate you calling us.
So, I have a theory about this Alabama scandal.
All right.
But I don't know if it's true, but I'm just kind of looking at it this way. If this insider that had communication with this manager that got fired, and that manager told him that their ace was not going to start before it was officially announced, you could see a lot of money coming in on LSU before the odds went against LSU's favor after the announcement.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, after the announcement, you're going to probably have a lot of people betting on LSU because the ace for Alabama is not starting, which I guess in a way the book could lose both ways. You follow me?
Yeah, isn't that kind of how they always kind of play it, though? I mean, they kind of set things up where they get maybe a little bit more one way than the other. They're not going to lose, but they're going to set it up so they don't lose big. They might not win real big, but they're not going to lose big.
Right, but in this case, though, they didn't get the information, or the insiders got the information before the sports book did regarding the ace.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm imagining that the LSU odds were probably pretty good if they were going against the Alabama ace, which not only would affect the money line and run line, but also the over-under. Because if he's a good pitcher, they're probably expecting a low-scoring game.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think that's just a theory.
No, I think it's a good one. I think it's a good one. That makes some sense to me. It kind of sounds like probably how it all came down, and an alert went up. As I mentioned earlier, there's an agency in Las Vegas that monitors this stuff, which I think is good for the gambling industry, right? Because, look, everybody who wants to participate in gambling, you want to know that it's being done fair and square, as fair and square as you can. And it's good to know that there's an agency keeping an eye on that sort of stuff and will pull the plug if they smell something fishy out there.
Yeah. And one other thing real quick, on the pro side, there's many ways to bet, but there's two ways to bet on a game involving the pitchers. You could do listed, which means you're betting on the pitchers that are listed, or you could do action, which means no matter who's pitching, you're betting whatever team you like. Now, if you bet the listed pitchers, if either pitcher is scratched before the game starts, then that bet is a push.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
you were telling me things I did not know. Are you a regular gambler on baseball?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
Not a regular, but let's just say I can't quit my day job.
Let me rephrase the question. Are you a successful gambler on baseball?
That would be a negative.
Well,
but it's just some of the things I kind of learned over the years.
Yeah. Baseball would be hard to bet because, let's face it, more than maybe any other sports, maybe one guy controls everything, and that's that pitcher. If you catch a pitcher on a bad day and say you've put the money on his team, and he goes out there and gives up a 6 or 7 spot in the first inning or first couple of innings, all of a sudden, you're dead in the water unless you have some miraculous comeback. And it's all one guy. If you got a pitcher who goes out there and puts donuts up on the board, you're in great shape if you took him. So
yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Great explanation.
All right.
Glad you shared that with us. Speaking of pitchers and stuff like that, Clemson and Louisville today put out their pregame notes for the weekend and for starting pitchers for all 3 games, TBA. For both teams, TBA. What do you think that's all about? No, seriously.
That's a great question.
Because Clemson's got a set rotation. Why are they not? No. Do you think? Nah, it wouldn't be related to this thing, would it?
Phil, that's a great question. I don't know. Maybe it's gotten around the NCAA quickly. Hey, do not release your pitching plans in advance.
I'm wondering. I'm seriously wondering about that after seeing the Clemson release
from USC.
They have not put their release out yet for this weekend, but I'm certainly going to be very interested to see what they put out for themselves in Kentucky this weekend. Yeah, that's kind of. I have to check on that and see why on both sides it's TBA.
Right. And I don't think I don't think Clemson's thought process would be, hey, let's give Ryan Ammons another day and just see if he might be ready to go into the rotation, because I'm not sure they want to mess with that starting rotation right now, the way they're playing. And, when we had Coach Bakich on last week about how superstitious he is, he's probably not going to want to touch that rotation because it's been extremely good.
Now, let me tell you this. The SEC has issued their weekend probable pitching matchups. So we've got that for the SEC. For those teams that have put out their rotations, like for South Carolina, they've got Will Sanders, Jack Mahoney, Matthew Becker against Kentucky, opposing Travis Smith, Tyler Bosma, and Zach Lee. So, some teams have put it out. Arkansas, Mississippi State, They've only put out their starters for the first game, not the next two. I'm sure this has got nothing to do with that. This has to do with maybe injuries or just questions about their rotations. I just thought it was interesting in the Clemson-Louisville matchup, both sides in the Clemson notes, because usually they give you the starting rotations for both sides.
Mhm.
In the Clemson notes, it was TBA across the board. So maybe they are seriously thinking about some other things than the norm.
If I'm Clemson, I don't mess with that rotation, especially don't take Caden Grice down to that Sunday starting nod. Heck, he flirted with a no-hitter last week. I mean, that kid is getting it done both on the mound, at the plate, and in the field. I wouldn't mess with them. Right now, the way they're playing, you just roll them back out there and let them go to work.
All right, going to hit a break here on Sports Talk. And when we come back, we are going to hear the interview I did just the other day with NASCAR Hall of Famer Dale Jarrett, three-time winner at Darlington, all in the spring race. Never won what was the fall race, what for a while became a winter race, November. I guess that's winter, maybe late fall, early winter. But never won that one, never won the Southern 500, but he won three times earlier in the year in races at Darlington. He knows a thing or two about getting around the lady in black, and he'll be the honorary starter for the race coming up.
Show your team pride wherever you go with Founders Federal Credit Union's collegiate debit cards. Get your University of South Carolina and Clemson University debit cards at any Founders office or by calling 1-800-845-1614. Plus, our debit cards are digital wallet ready, so you can pay however you please. Not a member? Visit relaxjoinfounders.com or one of our 37 convenient locations to see if you qualify for membership. Terms and conditions apply. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
Hope, life, and the Great Palmetto. What do these things have in common? Scholarship dollars. The SC Hope, the Life, and the Palmetto Fellow Scholarships are funded by the lottery players of this great state. And after 20 years, you've invested over $7 billion in education. $7 billion. Impressive. The South Carolina Education Lottery. When you play, we all win.
Imagine a scrapbook filled with all your favorite memories of 75 years of NASCAR gone by. Now imagine that scrapbook going 190 miles per hour.
Have you ever? No, I've never.
You don't have to imagine it. You need to get to Darlington, where the drivers of today tackle the track too tough to tame, just like they did your first time. NASCAR Throwback Weekend at Darlington Raceway, May 12th through the 14th. Get your tickets today at darlingtonraceway.com.
Now, if you're a NASCAR fan, and we know you are, you're going to want to hang with us here over the next 9 days. Going to do a lot of stuff leading up to the Goodyear 400 at Darlington, Mother's Day Sunday, a week from Sunday. Bring you a lot of interviews, Kerry Tharp, Jeff Owens, and, of course, from some of the drivers. This isn't a driver, but this is a former winner, but he will be driving the pace car. He'll be an honorary starter. I had a chance earlier this week to talk to Hall of Famer Dale Jarrett.
Great racing, very exciting all throughout the day. And, Dover provides that. I think it's just one of those places that regardless of the car and through the years, you've just seen exciting racing there. And there's some drivers that take to that and appreciate that a little bit more than others. And the guy that ended up winning and racing and breaking that, I think it was 54 races that Martin Truex Jr. Since he had last won, he's one of those that has done that. And I think by what I heard, that was like his third win on Monday, which is just incredible. First off, I didn't realize it had rained that many out, but then for him to be able to win every time that it seems like that they had to race on Monday. So fun to see, great battle between he and Ross Chastain, and to see Ryan Blaney up there once again putting his mark on it. William Byron had a great car and then just got off one time and wasn't able to make that up. So fun race to watch and keep up with, and nice to see that Martin Truex Jr. is going to be back in the playoffs battling for that second championship.
What do you make of the season to date?
Kind of the same that we saw last year, maybe not quite the mix of drivers that we were able to see win last year. But I think a lot of that comes to teams understanding this car a little bit more through the year, that not only the teams but the drivers just adapting to that. But I still think that we're going to see a huge number of different winners, and fun season to watch to this point. And I think that we have a lot of interesting tracks coming up that could provide us with some different winners in the very near future.
Well, a couple of weeks, it'll be Darlington, a place that you had a tremendous amount of success at over the years. 3 wins in the spring race, competitive in the Southern 500, but never a winner there. Any particular difference for the time of the year for you at Darlington, having success in the spring and not winning in the fall?
That you look back on it, and I think that we were always prepared for the Southern 500. It's just that you have to have so much that goes right there, and to win at Darlington. When we were there in 1996, racing for the $1 million that Winston was putting up to win 3 of the 4 what they considered major races, Darlington being that last one to get in the Southern 500. And, we went there, we sat on the pole, we were leading the race, and, a car blows an oil line off in front of me, going down into, well, at the time it was turn 3, now it's turn 1. And so I hit the oil, and I'm the first one to get there. And so, that took a car that we had gone and tested with and were well prepared and had it out front. Again, you just have to have everything to go right. I was there right with Jeff Burton and Jeff Gordon in their battle. And there were others, that just couldn't put it all together in the Southern 500. And, that extra 100 miles is a lot. I don't think that it ever was the side that it bothered me physically, but, it just takes its toll on the car, and making, all the right decisions for 500 miles around there certainly is difficult. But, hey, I'll take a Darlington win. If you want to give me all of them in the spring, I'll take as many as I can get there.
Is there a favorite part of the track for you? I know drivers talk about different tracks and different turns or straightaways that they feel like they are really dialed into. At Darlington, did you have a favorite part of the track?
Yeah, I think the favorite part for me is now what is the exit of turn 2, setting that up, and that encompasses the whole turn 1, turn 2 area, because you have to be able to position yourself properly, getting into turn 1, the challenge that is of getting yourself there, picking up the throttle and driving around there, and the exit of that corner is just so narrow, and trying to carry speed and do your job as a driver, you come within inches and sometimes even fraction of an inch of missing the wall on the exit of that corner. But the sensation of speed on the exit of that corner makes Darlington what it is, and it really is just outstanding. You can talk about the whole track. I could go through each corner, the difficulties of it, but that's the one thing to me that sets apart the drivers that are able to do well, is figuring out how you, from the middle of turns 1 and 2 to the exit of turn 2, how you manipulate that for 400 and 500 miles. It determines if you're going to be successful and have a chance to win.
And you will be honored at Darlington prior to the race coming up on Mother's Day weekend. What does that mean to you to be the ceremonial starter for the race and the throwback weekend as well? A couple of teams are going to be honoring your old look on the track. What's that mean to you?
It's a great honor. I've gone through this sport and done a lot of different things through the years, but the one thing I haven't done is drive the pace car and being, that honorary pace car driver. So when Kerry Tharp reached out to me about that possibility, it only took me a minute to say, hey, I would like to do this and be there. So, it's such a special weekend within itself. I mean, it would be enough if it's just on Mother's Day weekend because of the family history of this sport. But then you throw in all the things that are going on. You have the trucks there, the Xfinity cars there, the Cup race on Sunday on Mother's Day. So all of that special. Then the throwback weekend with the things that the teams do, the way that the drivers, the teams, the sponsors have embraced this throwback weekend to just look back on the history of this sport, it means a lot. And when you're someone that can look out there and see something, a car that resembles what you drove and had success with. It brings back a lot of memories and great feelings. And, there are a couple, and I know that, Ross Chastain's actually going to have UPS, I believe, on the hood of his car. And that looks outstanding, and really appreciate, Ty Norris and everyone at Trackhouse Racing making this happen. And, I just hope that Ross can go have that same success that I was able to have there in 2001 with UPS and battling Steve Park that day. So it's just a great weekend. And it's going to be, I talked about it being special for all of those reasons. And then we're going to have a lot of the 75 greatest drivers that NASCAR is honoring in this 75th year are going to be there and participate in the weekend. So this is going to be a weekend unlike any other that we've seen, and it's at the right place at Darlington.
Of course, you best known for growing up living in Hickory, North Carolina, but your family spent time in South Carolina, in Camden. Do you recall much of those days in South Carolina? And kind of makes you one of the homegrown folks who participate at Darlington, like a David Pearson and a Cale Yarborough.
Yeah, I do remember a lot of that. We moved there literally when I was in the first grade, and so it's to pick up and move from North Carolina, which is all that I'd known at that time. But to move there, a lot of good memories from Camden for a lot of different reasons. I appreciated where we lived and what Camden was about. Obviously, it was very close there to Darlington. To be able to be there in 1965 when my dad won the Southern 500 by 14 laps was incredible. The celebration that ensued when we got back to our house, and it seemed like the entire town of Camden was in our front yard when we arrived back there. Just great memories. And I actually started playing golf when I was in South Carolina. That's in Camden. That's where my dad first got me to a golf course. So many good things that happened through that. And of course, my dad winning the championship in 1965 was a great celebration too. So a lot of good memories with that, and really appreciate the time and effort and that we had there. And, it was great living in that part of the country for that time.
You could have been a Gamecock, right? They offered you a golf scholarship. You chose to go a different direction. You were a tremendous all-around athlete in high school. If you had not gone into racing, what do you think your sport would have been?
Yeah, I would have been a starving golfer somewhere, some way. That was, I love to play the game, and I was kind of self-taught, but caught the attention of the people at South Carolina and got that offer, and it was became the first big decision I had to make in my life as to what career path I was going to choose. And when I said no to the offer, it wasn't that I wasn't going to choose golf at that time. It was just that I was going to choose it in a different way. And so I decided that I would work on my game, and then the opportunity came when I was 20 to get behind the wheel of a race car. And to be quite honest, racing wasn't something I thought about because my mentality growing up was four sports: football, basketball, baseball, and golf. And even though there were smaller offers or from smaller colleges to play some football, golf was the main focus and probably the one opportunity that I would have had. But after I was fortunate to have a good career in racing, it got me the opportunity to play with a number of PGA players through the years, Jay Haas and Davis Love III, among a number of others through the years. And just to see how good they were, I don't know that I could have ever played the game at that level, but I'm fortunate that I chose the right one and things worked out for me.
Yep. Dale Jarrett. What idiot did that interview with all that background noise? My gosh.
Hey, we're in the business of sound, my friend.
Yeah, but
I will say this:
we're not in the business of grunts and clearing one's throat while we're doing the interview.
I thought I left your mic on by accident.
I loved your question about what is his favorite part of the racetrack at Darlington. His response, because there are very few places with so many cookie cutter mile-and-a-half tracks. What's your favorite turn in Charlotte? I don't know, turn 2, 3, 4, they're all the same.
Yeah.
But at Darlington, every single corner is different. And I thought that was fascinating listening to him. You're already starting to think about turn 2. It's almost like playing chess. You've got to think 2 moves ahead when you go into turn 1 so you can take turn 2 correctly. And I thought that was a great question.
Thank you. Yeah, interesting answer, too. I mean, because, like you said, he liked that turn coming off of that particular stretch, but you could probably talk to a half dozen other drivers, if not more, who might say, well, I really like coming out of 4 and coming down towards the checkered flag, especially if I'm leaving, but they might like that corner better. You're right. It's 4 distinct turns and differing straightaways. That's what makes it so dynamic as a racetrack. Top of the hour. We'll be back.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here, thank you for pushing the button. I thank you. Programming thanks you. America thanks you.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring Sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Ukraine's president has made a surprise visit to The Hague in the Netherlands, the home of the International Criminal Court, which has issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin. Correspondent Karen Chamas reports.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit to The Hague came a day after he denied Ukrainian responsibility for what the Kremlin are calling an assassination attempt on President Putin. ICC staff crowded at the windows to get a glimpse of Zelensky's arrival and raised a Ukrainian flag next to its own flag outside the building. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Air Force said Russian forces attacked several regions around Ukraine, including the southern city of Odessa and the capital Kyiv, with Iranian-made drones. I'm Karen Chamas.
Correspondent Rita Foley reports on the warning for those who have older BMW vehicles.
These are some vehicles from the 2000 through 2006 model years. BMW is warning that the airbags might explode in a crash. Don't drive them, advises BMW. Owners can go to BMW's website to check if their vehicle is affected, or the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's website. Or you can call BMW customer service. Repairs are available free, so is towing.
Uncertainty continues to pummel the banking industry despite assurances from financial regulators and bankers that the worst of the recent crisis is over and the banking system remains strong. Shares of smaller regional lender PacWest Bank plunged nearly 50% Thursday after the company confirmed reports that it was considering strategic options that may include the possible sale of the company. Other regional banks such as Comerica and Zions also saw double-digit declines. Wall Street was affected too. The Dow was down by 286 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Miss Prager here. Sue and I mean it when we say dogs are part of our family, and there's nothing like their loyal companionship. So we provide them with Rough Greens, RUFF, because we want them to feel healthy and be with us as long as possible. I know Charlie Kirk feels the same way.
The Pragers and I couldn't agree more. I rely on my trusted furry friend, Mr. Briggs, who's an absolute machine, and he relies on me to provide what's best for him. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black has packed Rough Greens, not a dog food, but a supplement full of vitamins, minerals, digestive enzymes, and omega oils that Mr. Briggs absolutely needs and loves. Trying Rough Greens for your dog just makes sense.
Greetings, Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black here. I'm honored that the Pragers and Charlie trust their dog's health to Rough Green. I'm so confident that Rough Green can help your dog too that I'm offering you a free Jumpstart trial bag. Just cover the shipping. Yes, dog food is dead food, but it doesn't have to be. Go to ruffgreens.com. Bible.
West Virginia completes an opioid settlement with Kroger for $68 million.
The state has lost more lives to opioid overdoses per capita than any other. That brings West Virginia's total opioid litigation dollars up to more than $1 billion. Kroger was the last remaining defendant in a lawsuit involving Walgreens, Walmart, CVS, and Rite Aid. The state had been scheduled to go to trial with the pharmacy chain in June. The settlement with Kroger resolves the lawsuit that alleged the pharmacy chain failed to maintain effective controls as an opioid distributor in the state, contributing to oversupply. John Scott reporting.
Embattled St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner is resigning effective June 1st amid calls from Republican leaders for her ouster. They allege negligence, saying too many cases, including homicides, have gone unpunished under Gardner's watch. News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. A few clouds rolling in this evening. Our low temp dips to 49. Tomorrow, increasing clouds throughout the day. A 20% chance we get some evening rain. The high is 77. For the weekend, Saturday, we'll have a better than 50% chance we get rain. Cooler with a high of 71. But on Sunday, after some morning rain, it's nicer with a high back up to 81. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring Sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The
Please
Point.
press button now. I said to genius.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
All right, back we are. Sports Talk Thursday night edition. Phil Kornblut, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Mike Morgan will make it a foursome. We should play some golf. Playing through. Mike Morgan will be joining us here shortly. Speaking of the golf scene, let's update what's happening over in Charlotte at Quail Hollow, where they're playing the first round of the Wells Fargo. I got to believe the conditions over there are just gorgeous. Not too hot, maybe a little windy, though the wind I don't think is as strong today as it was yesterday. I don't think the gusts have been quite as strong. And they do have some rain coming into the area overnight, maybe later tomorrow. Keep an eye on that and see what that does for conditions. But right now, top of the leaderboard is Tommy Fleetwood. He breaks through 5 under, had carried the day for most of the day, but Tommy Fleetwood, he posts a 6 under 65 to take a one-shot lead over Kevin Steelman, K.H. Lee, Taylor Moore, Xander Schauffele, Ryan Palmer, and Emiliano Grillo. About half the field's at 5 under, so it seems. 4 under, Patrick Cantlay, Sahith Theegala, Kramer Hickok, or is it Theegala?
It is Theegala.
Sahith Theegala. I just wanted to say Theegala.
I like that too, but yeah, I think that's how he pronounces it, Theegala.
Theegala. Kramer Hickok, Tom Kim, Chris Kirk, Adam Scott, Wyndham Clark, and the former Gamecock Matthew Neesmith. 4 under 67 for him. Rory McIlroy, a winner there before. Rory, 3 under 68. Justin Thomas, 3 under. And Lucas Glover, good round, 2 under 69. We got Ricky Fowler at even. We've got Cameron Young's even. Jordan Spieth is +1. Carson Young, +2, 73. Doc Redmond, +4, 75. And Ben Martin, who's been playing so well, +8, 79 for Gentle Ben. I can't call him Gentle Ben. That's Ben Crenshaw. We'll call him Tiger Ben. Tiger Ben Martin, +8, 79 for him. So that's the opening round, Wells Fargo over in Charlotte at the beautiful Quail Hollow. That is one beautiful golf course. You ever played that course, Chris?
I have not had the pleasure to play it. I've actually walked it. Went up to the Wells Fargo or whatever it was at the time, several years ago. And they're not kidding about, what is it, the Green Mile, the last 3 holes in Charlotte. Yeah, that is a long walk, the final 16, 17, and 18.
Yeah, and beautiful, though, isn't it?
It's a gorgeous golf course. It really is.
Yeah. All right, a couple of other things as we wait to connect with Mike here on this Thursday night. Let's see, what else do we have for you of note that we've been saving to share? Oh, Dexter Lawrence is a very, very rich man. He was already pretty rich. Now he's extremely filthy rich. The former Clemson Tiger, Giants All-Pro defensive tackle, 4-year deal, $90 million extension, $60 million guaranteed. Adam Schefter reporting according to sources. Makes him the 3rd highest paid defensive tackle in the NFL, Chris. The big thing there is the $60 million guarantee. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. I guess he avoided the Clemson curse, huh?
I guess he did. I guess he did.
He's another one of those guys that goes against the grain And NFL scouts, I'd still like to go back and find out whom all those NFL scouts were and if they actually have a Clemson player on their roster.
Well, I think, again, just to go back to what you're talking about, the story we talked about earlier in the week, I think he was focusing on defensive ends, not Clemson players in general who were drafted, but just some defensive ends that he cited, the writer cited, who's a former NFL front office guy. No, I'm sorry, wrong. He's a longtime NFL writer. And he cited sources talking because he was focusing on Miles Murphy, and he had gotten some comments from anonymous NFL scouts saying that Clemson's defensive ends over the years had been overhyped and underproducing in the NFL. I think that's how I took it.
Makes sense. And again, I think every college team is going to try and do their best to promote their guys because you start pumping guys into the NFL, it makes your program look a whole lot better for recruiting purposes, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That's got to be one of your big selling points. A couple of other things, and we'll get recruiting coming up for you here in just a little bit as well. And trying to connect with Mike. Hopefully we'll have him on board here momentarily. Clemson women's basketball coach Amanda Butler announced the addition of Derek Gibbs to the staff as an assistant coach, and he replaces Priscilla Edwards, who was named recently the head coach at Northeastern. Gibbs just wrapped up an 8-year stint as the head coach at North Florida, has more than 15 years of coaching experience, including 10 years in the ACC, spent a lot of time at Miami. Speaking of Darlington, always a fun event at Darlington, and that is the official Throwback Weekend of NASCAR, the Goodyear 400 annual Darlington Raceway Throwback Parade on Saturday, May 13th. Grand Marshals Kurt Busch, Ricky Craven will lead the parade through downtown of Darlington, which won't take very long. And down, this is what I love about small town South Carolina. Going to go down Pearl Street, right? Going to go down Pearl Street and head out to, what is that, 151? What is Harry Bird Boulevard? Or Harry, isn't that Harry Bird? What they call Harry Bird? And they're gonna have the parade come out of downtown Darlington, out Pearl Street, down the road to the track, and they're going to turn and go into the track and carry the parade into the track. I mean, that's just so cool. How many places do that have a major sports event?
Well, and the fun part used to be, and unfortunately it's sort of gone away because of COVID and everything else, but years and years ago, they used to have around the Southern 500, they would have a car hauler parade as well, from Florence to Darlington. And that was all the big trucks that haul the race cars to the track. And so they would actually parade through from Florence. It would start over here at the Civic Center and work its way towards Darlington and then into the track. And then the trucks would, of course, park for the weekend. And it was always a lot of fun to see. They had a huge festival over at the Florence, what is called now the Florence Center. And then into Darlington, it was a big, big deal. I hate that went away, but this should be a lot of fun. And you misquoted Darlington. It's not a parade. They won't be leading the parade. They'll be leading the cavalcade.
The cavalcade.
Through downtown Darlington, which, again, as you pointed out, around the square won't take a whole lot of time.
It's a beautiful little downtown
Pretty
area.
downtown, yeah,
that big old square around the courthouse there in Darlington. What you got, Pat? Looks like you got something you want to say.
Oh, well, just while we're trying to kill a little bit of time here, waiting to get Mike connected, a couple news notes I was hoping to bring up if we had a little time. I know they're not necessarily about SEC, ACC, or some of our in-state schools, but I went down the Big 12 rabbit hole last night. The Big 12 made some announcements that as a conference, they're going to start playing both football and men's and women's basketball games in Mexico City and Monterrey, Mexico, starting in 2024. Great. They'll be playing basketball games at a roughly 22,000-seat arena called CDMX in Mexico City. Football games will be played in Monterrey at Estadio BBVA, which is roughly 53,000 seats, nicknamed El Gigante de Acero. I love that name. Yeah. So, but then I took that a step further because they were talking about the introduction of 4 new teams to the conference, which then took me further down the rabbit hole. Remember, Oklahoma and Texas are not set to leave the Big 12 and join the SEC until 2024. Well, BYU, Central Florida, Cincinnati, and Houston are all entering the Big 12 this year, starting July 1st. So the 2023 football schedule actually consists, or the conference in 2023 actually consists of 14 teams. So now we have the Big 12 going from 10 members to 14 members. Then they'll go back down to 12. But I just thought that was interesting. And then another step further, the Big 12 is finalizing a 6-year, $2.3 billion extension of media rights with ESPN and Fox Sports. And part of that, they're exploring ways to modernize their TV broadcasts with in-game interviews. So having potentially mic'd up players. But yeah, we saw during the Masters with Rory McIlroy. We're seeing it, of course, with football. Every sport's starting to do this. They're also going to start doing expanded locker room access, where they're talking about doing pregame and postgame, maybe even halftime interviews from the locker rooms. So just a lot going on right there with the Big 12. I was curious you guys' thoughts on that.
Hate it all. I mean,
Yeah,
me
fair.
personally,
Yeah.
I hate it all. I don't like the NBA between quarter interviews, except when they were doing whenever you're going to interview what's his face with the Spurs, because he's so gnarly and he hates it so much. What's his name?
Popovich.
Popovich. Yeah. Oh, he hates those interviews so much. He became famous because of the way he reacted in those interviews. He hated them so much. And I mean, every so often you might get a crumb of information and maybe a little something that's worth talking about, but it's so rare. But it's like everything else, Chris, and I've said this repeatedly over the years when it comes to television, like everything else, it starts with one little thing and it blows up and it just keeps eating away until it just takes it over. It's like when they started televising a college baseball games, they started with, one game here and one game there. And of course, now it's a big deal. And I guess that's good for college baseball, but you've seen it on the high school level with all the high school football play-by-play that takes place now on Friday nights. And you wonder about that eventually eating away at your gate and things like that. Where, television just becomes it can't get enough as an industry. It can't help itself. And then of course these production elements start coming into play. And I don't know. I didn't learn a darn thing listening to those players talking at the Masters. Was it kind of neat, I guess, to be carried out onto the fairway and listen to them answer questions? Or they mic up players in ball games now. I think they're doing that in some SEC baseball games, right? Haven't they mic'd up some players in the outfield and asked them questions during the game?
Now that I have not seen, and I think that's going way, way too far. I get it. Major League Baseball has done that during preseason games because they're almost laughable because the guys are just out there having fun anyway. That makes sense. But you start doing regular season games and you're miking somebody in the outfield and they pay more attention to the interview than their job. That we don't need to go down that rabbit hole for sure. And has anybody asked Big 12 basketball how they want to play in Mexico City where the altitude is over 7,000 feet? Ugh. Imagine 40 minutes and why in the world would we send college teams down to a country that is so crime-ridden right now and unsafe? It makes no sense whatsoever. And what is the benefit of playing games in Mexico for the Big 12? It's not as if you're mining tremendous talent out of Mexico to come back and play basketball or football for you.
I agree with you, man.
I don't understand it at all.
I agree with you. All right, got to hit the break. We've connected with Mike, and he'll be with us here in just a moment. We'll bring him to you momentarily and get his thoughts on what's happened at Alabama with baseball there today and some other things that we will bounce off of him as well. So stay with us. We've got recruiting coming up for you as well in the next few minutes. So plenty more to come on this edition of Sports Talk across the state on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Parents ask, what's the best way to save for college? I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and my answer is always open a Future Scholar 529 college savings account. It's easy. You can get started online with any amount. It's flexible to adapt to your child's college dreams. And you can deduct 100% of your contributions from the South Carolina state tax return. So what are you waiting for? Go to futurescholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. futurescholar.com.
Major Billy Downer here from the Department of Natural Resources, and DNR is excited to announce the implementation of Go Outdoors SC, a new online licensing and boat titling system that you can access right from your phone. Through this new system, customers can purchase their hunting and fishing licenses, renew their boats, apply for lottery hunt opportunities, and complete electronic harvest reporting requirements. For more information, visit Go Outdoors SC at your local app store.
Hi, I'm Jim Corbett. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years. There's one thing I've learned about injury cases. It's you need the personal touch. You need the lawyer to get to know you and describe your damages. You don't want a case manager talking to an insurance company and then talking to you and then talking to maybe to a lawyer with limited experience at the last minute to try to settle a case. I talk to you. I find out what your case is about. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com for your injury cases.
Without further delay and without further ado, or is it without further ado, without further delay? We welcome in Mike Morgan to Sports Talk. Morgan on the Move, brought to you by Visionaire Solutions. No one else offers this. Based in South Carolina, Visionaire makes sure the air you breathe in every day is healthy and safe. Visionaire Purification makes sure your home is air pollution free. No more viruses, mold, bacteria, stale odors, etc., except when Mike's cooking. They make sure your home is full of clean air. And also they offer HVAC duct cleaning, sanitation as well. Keep you and your family safe and healthy. Simply call Visionaire Solutions today. 803-220-1811. That's 803-220-1811. Morgan on the Move. Mike Morgan joining us here as he joins us. Major national news, the Bucks have fired Budenholzer after their first-round ouster of the NBA playoffs. I think I called that here on Sports Talk because he handled that series terribly, and so the Bucks not waiting around. The Bucks stops there, and the Bucks stops with Mike Morgan here on Sports Talk. Speaking of Bucks, what do you think about what happened there with Alabama baseball and apparently some gambling bucks changing hands?
Shocked to I got a first indication of it on Tuesday, and I said, well, that can't be right. I don't know anybody that bets on college baseball's regular season. And I know some degenerate gamblers now, but I don't know anybody.
Let's don't get into your family business here, Mike.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I know people that bet on WNBA. I know people that bet on a low rent golf tournament, like anything. I've never heard.
I know some people who go to a roulette table and count the number of times it lands on one color before going the other direction.
That's right. That would be me, and it's a flawless system. And if you're in Council Bluffs, Iowa, and nowhere else. But no, I've never heard of that. So the story seemed a little bit shady at the surface, and then I figured, well, there'll be some clarification. And then when I saw that Coach Bohannon, who I know well, I've known him since he's an assistant coach, and one of the nicest, classiest guys in the profession, really. I mean, that's just not my opinion. That's the reputation he's garnered really nationally over the years. So then you start thinking, before that, my mind was jumping to, okay, maybe there are a couple of players that found somewhere where they can actually do this. And then that, of course, could be doubly crippling because now you start talking about things like point shaving or in this case, run shaving, I guess. But nope, as I understand it, no players have been accused of being involved in this at all. So you're left to think, okay, you've only got one person who is getting any punishment here, and it was Swift. It was pretty doggone swift from when the report first came out. So obviously somebody believes that Coach Bohannon did something wrong, and that somebody feels like they've got enough evidence to to make that radical move. I mean, I just can't see any other reason why it would have risen to the level of termination. So they obviously think he was involved in something like that. And I just, again, I can't even imagine what type of money we're talking about, because I don't know anybody that bets on regular season college baseball. And because there's so few, here's what I do know, my limited gambling knowledge. I've watched enough documentaries on how they catch people. You know, mainly this has been a basketball problem over the years, whether it was Tulane, Arizona State, Boston College with the mob. There's a heavy bit of action on a game that doesn't justify a heavy bit of action. Well, what kind of action is there on an Alabama LSU regular season baseball game in the first place? So, I mean, if people bet $500, that might raise an eyebrow.
Yeah.
I don't. It's one of the most bizarre stories I've ever seen. Forget about college baseball, in any sport.
Well, you go back and look at some of the things that are coming out. A, they pulled their starting pitcher an hour before the game because of a back issue. And then B, according to reports, there's footage of a guy there placing the bet in Cincinnati, and they've got him apparently on the phone, according to the report. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, allegedly on the phone talking to the Alabama coach as he's like placing the bet. Was that the report, Chris, that they had that kind of footage?
That's pretty much it in a nutshell. And I can't imagine what the surveillance video is showing. It's certainly not a split screen with both of them talking to one another. So on top of that, they've also got to have, you would think, Mike, phone records as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that this, they've been tapping into this for a while. It didn't just happen overnight with that level of just attention to it. The thing about it too, though, is that, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, was the final score not 8-6?
Yeah, LSU got out to a big lead, right? They led 8-1, ended up winning like 8-6, something like that.
So I mean, I guess you're sweating out that. I mean, if you're one of the people involved in what you think is kind of a rigged, or at least at minimum, a tilted scale bet, a 2-run game in college baseball in this day and age, that's not a heck of a lot. That's not like, completely dumping a game. So obviously the players didn't get the memo.
Yeah.
Certainly, if you're a coach, I mean, this goes back to the Pete Rose, where Pete would say, "Well, I never bet against the Reds." Well, you certainly, based on the moves you make as a manager, in this case a coach, you can heavily tilt the scale either in your team's direction or not in your team's direction, and therefore you can indicate to other people, in the case of Pete Rose, who to bet on. So I mean, the whole thing is just crazy to me. College baseball coaches make more money than they ever have, and I know Alabama's program has been struggling for a long time. This goes back before Bohannon, who I think overall has done a good job in Tuscaloosa. But if you go and look at his salary, it's pretty healthy. I can guarantee you that without knowing the exact number off the top of my head. So why would you risk all of that to start a gambling type of scheme on your team's games? That just seems like really lacking foresight. And look, dumber things have been done, but it just doesn't totally add up to me.
Yeah. They were 22 in the RPI going into tonight's game against Vanderbilt. They got a chance to really move up and make some noise.
And you're talking about it, because Alabama's been so bad. Okay, like the expectation for LSU is go to Omaha every year. The expectation, for Carolina, Clemson is to go at least every few years. The expectation for Alabama is, can we just somehow get to the tournament, because we haven't done much of anything over the last decade and a half. So if he gets his team to the tournament, he's getting a bonus or an extension. If he has success in the postseason, he's getting another one. Like, this is something you do when you're about to get fired and your team is struggling and you figure you're just desperate because you're probably not going to keep the job. You might as well try and cash in in a shady way. this is not something you do with a team that was postseason or is postseason bound. I don't know. Again, it is layers and layers and layers of just incredulous type of accusations and potentially facts in the case, because it just doesn't add up. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Most of the things that have been done illegally in college athletics, while we might not like them, we can understand them. We can almost not justify it, but you can understand what you were trying to get away with there. I don't really get it here, honestly. And I'd love to know if all this is true, what kind of payday are we talking about? Because I don't even know what casino takes a bet on a regular season college baseball game.
Yeah. Pretty soon they'll be betting on you and me going one-on-one. They'll be taking that bet in Las Vegas.
There's not enough astronomical odds on that. 10,000 to 1 corn flute, the ultimate 16 seed. I mean, let's try it.
Okay, Mikey. Thank you. Have a good weekend. And we'll be back in a moment. Appreciate you. Be right back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. A few clouds rolling in this evening. Our low temp dips to 49. Tomorrow, increasing clouds throughout the day. A 20% chance we get some evening rain. The high is 77. For the weekend, Saturday, we'll have a better than 50% chance we get rain. Cooler with a high of 71. But on Sunday, after some morning rain, it's nicer with a high back up to 81. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
Hey, it's Jay with The Melting Pot. One of the cool things about working at The Melting Pot is we don't have to push our servers to sell dessert. We don't even have to push them to suggest dessert. You all know it's coming, a big bowl of melted chocolate with all the dippers that you could dream of. How about a flaming turtle, creamy flavor of milk chocolate is melted with caramel flambéed and topped with candied pecans? Or a Bananas Foster, white chocolate fondue melted with bananas and dulce de leche, then flambéed. The Melting Pot, 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting. Embattled St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner is resigning effective June 1st amid calls from Republican leaders for her ouster. Attorney General Andrew Bailey took legal steps to remove her from office in February, alleging negligence. Bailey has said too many cases, including homicides, have gone unpunished under Gardner's watch, that victims and their families are left uninformed, and that the prosecutor's office is too slow to take on cases brought by police. Gardner has said Bailey's efforts to remove her are politically and racially motivated. The attorneys general of New York and California are investigating allegations of workplace discrimination in the NFL. They say that NFL executives are part of an examination into workplace culture. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 286 points. More details at srnnews.com.
Let's see. Are you getting a tax refund? You've been waiting to put those new hardwood floors in? Or is it that luxury vinyl plank that's so hot right now? It's time to call the flooring department. Stretch your dollars here. The flooring department doesn't have a huge multi-million-dollar showroom to pay for. They keep your prices down and your quality up. Look, we all buy from the same manufacturers, so why pay more? Online at theflooringdepartment.com or call 951-3567. That's 951-FLOR.
Are you worn out from wall-to-wall political talk? Instead of hearing more about the stuff in Washington that's mostly out of your control, I'll give you the tools to actually take control of your money and your life. Dave Ramsey here. Join me right here on The Point. I'm live and taking your calls weekdays at 2 p.m. I'll teach you how to get on a written plan that actually works, get out of debt, and build wealth. Weekdays at 2 p.m. The Dave Ramsey Show at 100.7 The Point.
Hey, honey, I'm back from taking Dad to the doctor.
How's he doing?
Much better now. The diabetic ulcer on his leg is finally healing.
That's great. He had that ulcer for weeks before you finally spoke to the pharmacist at True Pharmacy.
Yes, and after a quick conversation between the pharmacist and his doctor, they came up with a great wound care plan with a new product that's really working. I'm glad they take the time to care.
True Pharmacy, 2 locations, West Columbia on Charleston Highway or 3217 Divine Street. Or visit us at truerxsc.com.
Hey, Kev here. One thing that's truly unique about The Point is you. We call our listeners the Point family. You've stayed so loyal. You've stayed so supportive. Thank you for that. We call The Point Columbia's local talk radio experience. We're community driven. We push hard for our advertising partners because they're mom and pop businesses, small business owners. People ask me all the time, how can we help you with The Point, Kev? Well, it's pretty simple. Support those who support us. If you hear an advertising partner here on The Point, use them. Support them. Brag to them that you're there because you trust The Point. If you're a local small business owner, I'd love to have you as part of our lineup. Give me a call. Tell me your story. I'll create a customized advertising package that fits your budget and your needs. Nothing corporate, nothing cookie cutter. Look, if you haven't tried radio, it does work, especially here at The Point. Give us an opportunity to share you with our Point family. Call me. 563-8558. That's 563-8558. Or email me directly, kev@makethepointradio.com. I sure hope we could partner up. Join the Point family.
It's the Cigar Militia, Columbia's premium cigar store. It's that time of year. It's golf weather. Are you going golfing this weekend? Be the guy bringing the sticks, not the guy that borrows. Come by and refill your humidor or just pull off the interstate for a smoke and a cold beverage. Our friendly and knowledgeable staff will help you. You could be a novice or a seasoned veteran. Our friendly staff will walk you through the humidor and answer your questions. We're at 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard, next to the Melting Pot.
The keys in the ignition, so drivers fire your engines. It's a battle to the end. Never give up, no, never give in. It's grit and guts, dirt and dust. Get out your seat and put your hands up. Let's ride, we got the green light. It's a party in the pit tonight. Let's go, this is how we roll on tires that are larger than life. Doesn't matter where you're from, it's running through your blood. Time to get loud, everybody buckle up. You waited, now you made it to the greatest show on earth. It's the Monster.
All right, we're back on Sports Talk. Every so often, we like to get off the mainstream and go into the, what would you call it? Go off the rails a little bit. And that's what they do in monster truck racing. Is it called monster truck racing? Monster truck competition. And we welcome in once again. He's been with us before. Good to have David Renfro with us, promoter of Thunder Valley Mudplex over in Thunder Alley Mudplex over in Gaston. And they've got an event, a show coming up, and he's going to tell us all about it. And then we're going to talk to a driver here because we're all over the racing scene and the NASCAR scene and also the monster truck scene here on Sports Talk. Dave, great to have you with us. How are you?
Sir, I am doing just fine. It is great to be on this show. This is the place to be in the state of South Carolina, that's for sure. I appreciate you giving us some time.
Well, we appreciate the unsolicited plug. Tell us about the event you've got coming up.
Man, we're out here at Thunder Alley Mudplex in Gaston, South Carolina. It's a new park. It's got we do a lot of mud racing, and there's some motorcycle racing and a little bit of everything and some trail riding. But this weekend is going to be epic. I mean, that's about the best way to put it. We're actually going to be trying to break a personal mega truck jump record of 175 feet 1 inch. And if you don't know what a mega truck is, it's basically like a monster truck. It just has different tires, and that's it. But the excitement and everything else is still there. And actually, this truck probably has more horsepower than a monster truck, to be honest with you.
Wow. I'm looking at a picture of the Wild Child, and it looks pretty saucy. And
yeah, he named it right.
I can imagine. Give us the details of your event, like the time and admission and things that folks can expect to enjoy and see.
Sure. It's good old American competition. Bring your family. Everybody's welcome. It's $30 at the gate, and gates open up at 9 o'clock. We're going to be doing a driver's meeting at noon. We got competition going on at 1 o'clock. We got some of the best food anywhere. I mean, if you by chance get mud thrown on you, that's a souvenir you can take back home with you. And we got plenty of shirts and hats and everything else that you can imagine. And we've got people flying in from literally all over the United States. We got people coming in from Michigan, Virginia, Ohio, Florida. I mean, there's people all coming just to come to little old Gaston, South Carolina. I think it's become the vacation capital this weekend because people were scheduling it.
That's great. Well, I can tell you, man, I love to be at Darlington and used to be able to stand right there in the turns, right up by the fence, and you would leave, you'd walk away, you'd have tar all over you coming off the tires.
Yep.
And so you're telling me, come to your event and you can leave with mud splashed all over you.
That's right. That's right. And a big old grin on your face. And if you take one of those cup cars from last weekend, and don't get me wrong, I love NASCAR racing, but it would take about 6 of those engines to match the horsepower we got going on in this Wild Child mega truck.
Holy cow. That's amazing. And we've got the driver standing by, Jake Burton, correct?
Got the main man. Let me put him on here for you, Mr. Jake Burton.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. Mr. Jake Burton, driver of the Wild Child mega truck. Jake, are you with us?
Yes, sir, I am.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Sports Talk. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I appreciate you guys taking the time out to talk with us. It means a lot.
Our pleasure, man. Our pleasure. What is it like to sit behind the doggone wheel of this thing and mash that gas pedal?
It's the biggest adrenaline rush I've ever had. It really is. I've done the powerboat thing, I've done the motorcycle thing. I've set a couple records in the land speed world, but this thing, I've been messing with these mega trucks for it's 11 years this year, and my hobbies have a quick turnover rate because I just want to touch everything shiny and fast. And these trucks have grabbed a hold of me and will not let go. I mean, the adrenaline that you get from them is just unreal.
Who built this thing?
I did. I built it. I built the chassis. I built the axle housings and the cage, and I mean everything on this truck's 100% me.
How long did it take you to build it?
This thing is just it's nonstop evolving. Like there's parts of this frame rail that are in it that I built like 10 years ago, and I just can't leave well enough alone. So I mean, I put it under the knife probably every winter, and just change up shock locations and axles and this and that, move stuff around, shifting weight, trying to get it balanced, and I just can't leave it alone.
Is that all in an attempt to get that extra couple of inches, that extra foot or so as you strive to set this record?
Yes, it is. I mean, this time around, we went with dual shocks again. I had them on there once before, took them all, didn't think I needed them, and then we realized it did. So we run 8 24-inch nitrogen charged shocks. And it used to be blown alcohol big block Chevrolet. And we pulled that out over the winter, and then pulled a motor out of a pro mod car. So now it's got a blown alcohol injected late model TFX built aluminum Hemi in it.
It's unbelievable.
So
what kind of speed?
I don't know if you know.
What kind of speed do you hit as you're approaching your big jump? What kind of speed are you doing?
Well, we're looking for anywhere between 100 and 110 miles an hour this weekend. That's our number to hit this jump. And this jump is, we got about a 610-foot run up to the face of the jump, and the jump itself, the face of the jump is 90 foot long, and the jump is right at 20 foot tall with like a 15-degree angle. So it's going to boot it. We're probably going to clear the tree lines.
Wow. What's it like when you're up in the air?
It's kind of surreal. I mean, it really is. It slows down. Time slows down when you're up there. You wouldn't think so, but you got a bit of a second or two to think about what's going on and realize just how far you are off the ground.
What do you think about? I mean, do you think about, well, I'm going to hit the ground here in a minute? I mean, what's going through your mind?
Just throttle rhythm, because when we get up in the air, you're whacking the throttle a couple times to keep that gyro effect of the tires to keep it up, so I've done it before where the truck started over rotating in the air. So the nose started hiking up I'm basically I was vertical in the air, and so you're just kind of paying attention, and when you start going over vert, you're like, I need to grab just a little bit of brake. You jab the brake, and then it'll straighten the truck up. Then you get back on the throttle, on the throttle rhythm, and so that's what's going on. I really don't even think about the landing or anything like that.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. We are talking with Jake Burton, the driver of the Wild Child Mega Truck, which will be the main attraction coming up this weekend at Thunder Alley Mudplex over in Gaston. Have you had a chance to get over there and check it out, do some testing or some preparation, all that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, we've been here since Tuesday evening. We've done some warm up tests, and we made a little test hit yesterday. And we actually, right before we got on the phone with you, we just made another hit. We did some tune up changes this morning, and then we've been playing with gear arrangements and stuff like that, just trying to get the the optimal mile an hour for the real estate that we have to cover.
What's the competition going to look like for you?
Well, I mean, I'm the only one jumping, but as far as in the mega truck world, there's some pretty stiff competition. There's some heavy hitters. There's a lot of guys like me that just like to line it up and go full send off a pile of dirt. So there's, if we better my record, there's probably going to be somebody behind me trying to do it better again.
Yeah. Now, did you ever want to just drive a race car on a regular track and maybe go fast in NASCAR?
Well, when I was a kid, I had, pipe dreams of being a top fuel drag racer, and then I just, the older I got, the more I realized how expensive those cars are, but yeah, I have a handful of friends that run the No Prep King Series stuff, and they kind of beat me up pretty hard because I like to take this truck out and get it dirty and whatnot. And those guys just play around on the asphalt all the time. And they're like, you need to get in a race car. You need to quit screwing around and get in a race car. So it's bound to happen sooner or later.
Yeah, I want to see that. Well, how much money, if you can say, how much do you have into the Wild Child?
I say right now, if I had to replace it, like nut for nut and bolt for bolt, I'm up probably about 200,000, 220, somewhere around there.
So yeah. Jake, I'm reading through your bio here, and the deeper I'm going down this rabbit hole, the more questions I have for you and the more impressed I am. But I'm going to try to narrow it down to one. So I see you have 2 land speed records. You set a world record in low riding, double pumps, hop. But what I'm interested in, and I'm guessing you're hoping you have a great story behind this world record long jump that you had for 175 feet and 1 inches. Is that right?
Yes, that's what we're doing this weekend. I'm going to try to better my personal record. I'm personally shooting for 250 foot.
Wow. So now
this weekend,
my brain goes to, I went to one of these competitions years ago with my dad, and I'm planning on taking my nieces this weekend, and or this upcoming one. I'm very excited about it. In my mind, I'm thinking like buses and cars and things like that. Is that kind of what you're jumping here to hope to get over the 200-foot range?
No, we're not actually jumping over anything. We're joking around. I had one of my friends about half believing that we were going to drop 3 Huey helicopters behind a jump with the rotors spinning, and that's what we had to clear. And his eyes were about as big as pepperonis. He thought I was out of my mind, And then I told him we was going to land into a pool of pissed off great white sharks.
Love it.
That's great. Jake, hey, man, good luck. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Tell Dave, thanks very much for putting this together. Good luck to everybody out there. I hope it's good and muddy for you. I hope the track is, something to your liking, and you can get those RPMs up, get that speed up, and get that extra couple of feet, maybe an extra 25 feet on the record. That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be great. I appreciate it. That's what we're shooting. You guys need to, if you get a chance, you need to come out and enjoy it.
Well, Pat's going to be there, so he'll be cheering for you.
All right, awesome. I can't wait to see him.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, and thank you, Dave Renfro, promoter of the Thunder Alley Mudplex over in Gaston. That's coming up this weekend, and it's going to be Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. As you heard David say, they got a lot of great things planned. So if you love that kind of stuff, you love that kind of, it's not really racing, it's just this competition. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess maybe there is some, I guess they have some kind of mud racing going on, maybe side-by-side racing, ATVs, UTVs. MX bikes, motocross tracks. I'm just reading here about the Masters Motoplex in Gaston. Facility boasts over 500 acres dedicated to anything with tires, it says. Thunder Alley Mudplex. I love that name. That's a great name for a place like that. All right, we're going to hit the break here, and thanks to those guys for joining us. Hit the break. We'll come back and give you the recruiting report for tonight. That's not stuck in the mud, for sure.
Very nice.
Got some good stuff for you there, and we'll finish up with some final thoughts, some final notes. Maybe talk a little bit about the Lakers and the Warriors game 2 tonight out in San Francisco. That will all continue after this break here on Sports Talk. We'll be right back.
Life, it has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit PlayResponsiblySC.com.
Parents ask, what's the best way to save for college? I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and my answer is always open a Future Scholar 529 college savings account. It's easy. You can get started online with any amount. It's flexible to adapt to your child's college dreams. And you can deduct 100% of your contributions from the South Carolina state tax return. So what are you waiting for? Go to futurescholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. Futurescholar.com.
George Bryant here with Tsunami Bar Sports, and wow, Tsunami Robbie, there is now an amazing technology that you can use when you train receiving large game without having to endure pain. Please explain.
George, that is the magic combination. I have 3 simple words to define that entire concept. Stimulation, not annihilation. Regardless of your training goals, there is a level of stimulation that is optimal for your desired gains. Tsunami Bar's flexible bar technology meets these demands because the user determines the level of stimulation with the amount of speed and force they impart into the bar or training device.
Hey, this is Phil Kornbluth. The Tsunami Bar is a terrific training device, whether you're working on your fitness or your golf game. It's convenient, it's easy to use, and you won't feel beat up afterwards. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any order using promo code BBB5. Don't wait. Order today. Well, here's mud in your eye for recruiting purposes. It is time for the recruiting report brought to you by Seawells. All right, tomorrow's a big Friday at Seawells. Is it what I think it is? Have we promoted an RBF for this Friday at Seawells, Pat? Pat's pulling up the menu. It's 11 to 2. Tomorrow, the last day of the week, your last chance to enjoy the great daily luncheon buffet of the week, and it will be?
It will be an RBF, Roast Beef Friday. Thanks again. Shout out Andy for the name. So they'll have carved roasted sirloin of beef along with southern fried chicken and pulled pork.
I came up with that name. Andy didn't come up with that name.
No, it was Andy because he also.
I'm not sure about that.
He had KFF too, corn-free Friday and roast beef Friday.
I want to go check the archives. Go ahead.
Oh, that was it. Carved roasted sirloin of beef along with southern fried chicken. I'll gladly repeat it though, and pulled pork. I'll be there tomorrow, roughly 12:30. Come say hi. Love their Friday menu. Everything will be spectacular. Again, all you can eat, $13. Lots of local sides. Now that the weather is warmer, you're starting to get those nice fresh veggies straight from farmers market and so forth. That's what Seawells has out there for you, along with salad bar and dessert.
All right. Of course, the very best in the catering business, none other than Seawells. Their phone number, 803-771-7385. Check out their menus on their website, SeawellsCateringSC.com. All right, so we begin tonight's recruiting report. And if you're watching our stream, you're going to see highlights of the player transferring to Clemson from UNC Greensboro. He is 6'10", a native of the Netherlands, Bas Leida. And he averaged about 8 points, a little over 4 rebounds, 1.1 assists per game this past season. They finished third, the Spartans did, in the SoCon, 20-12. He's the third transfer for Brad Brownell and the Tigers this offseason. And his junior season was his most productive at UNCG, 31 games there, 19 starts. He shot 54% from the field, 10 points per game, 6 rebounds per game. He's a career 50% shooter, scoring 5 points and grabbing 3 rebounds per game in 49 starts for his career. So, guy looking to move up to ACC land, and Clemson's got a big body there. 6'10" guy from the Netherlands. Former USC forward Daniel Hankins Sanford can't get enough Frank Martin. He's transferring to UMass to play for Frank Martin. Frank Martin, obviously signed him, but wasn't there to coach him at South Carolina. He is transferring to UMass. Now to football. Quarterback Ethan Grunkmeyer, 6'3", 190. He's out of Lewis Center, Ohio. He's a player Clemson is interested in. Penn State recently offered. Minnesota, Michigan State, Cincinnati, Duke, Northwestern, Boston College, Stanford. And now Clemson with Garrett Riley up there today to watch him throw and evaluate him. Grunkmeyer said he heard from Riley a couple of weeks back, and he's very interested in taking a look at Clemson. Of course, he's very familiar with the Tigers, being in Ohio State. Well, not going to say fan, but he's right there in Columbus, so he's watched Ohio State and Clemson go head-to-head quite a bit, so he's very familiar with the Tigers. Last season, he completed 64%, 2,649 yards, 24 touchdowns. He ran for 5 touchdowns. Thinks he would be a good fit in that Clemson offense after watching what Riley did at TCU last year. Thinks it's a good offense for him. And the process, just starting to get underway between Grunkmeyer and Clemson. We'll see if it leads anywhere. USC receivers coach Justin Stepp has been working receiver Amari Jefferson, 6'4", 195 of Chattanooga. Jefferson made an unofficial visit for Junior Day in January. The trick now for Stepp is to get him back for an official visit. Jefferson's got 3 official visits set: Alabama, June the 9th, Georgia, June the 16th, and Tennessee, June the 23rd. He says he talks to Stepp a lot. They've got a great relationship. They're trying to work out an official visit. He hasn't talked to his parents yet about that, but he says he guess he could take one there if he can find a date that's available that works for South Carolina. He said Stepp will be down to see him next week. He was supposed to be in last week. Something came up, didn't make it, and then they couldn't get together this week, so he's expecting him in next week. Gamecocks are in his lead group, which used to number 12, but it's more like 6 now. He has Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama, USC, Miami, and Penn State. He made 2 trips to Alabama in the spring. He also went to Clemson, Kentucky, Georgia, Tennessee, and Colorado. Not much going on with Clemson at this point. He caught 72 balls, 1,370 yards, and 17 touchdowns last season. Running back Logan Diggs, 6 feet 200 of Notre Dame, has entered the transfer portal, John, on April 27th. Multiple USC coaches are showing interest via social media. Alabama has as well. He's a native of Louisiana, and LSU is expected to be involved. He rushed for 822 yards and 4 touchdowns last season, had 114 against Clemson, and 90 rushing and 81 receiving, and scored 2 touchdowns against the Gamecocks in the Gator Bowl. Offensive lineman Nye Mansell, transfer from Mercer, who visited USC Monday and has a PWO offer, told us he is planning to accept that offer from the Gamecocks over some FCS offers that have come his way since he entered the portal, John. He said he has to wait until being admitted to the university before announcing his plans. And USC offered 2026 wide receiver DeJay Carter of Mineral, Virginia. Might be Digier, could be DeJair. I'm going to go with Digier Carter, 6 feet 180 of Mineral, Virginia. There you go with the recruiting report tonight here on Sports Talk. The one thing I wanted to mention real quick, I was reading CBS Sports article about the ACC and talking about the upcoming season, and the writer suggested that Clemson will lose. Doesn't suggest. He said that Clemson will lose to Duke in the season opener.
What?
That's what he wrote. And that Florida State is really the team to be watching there in the ACC with their quarterback being back and some of their other talent. But, yeah, he believes Duke coming off a 9-3. He thinks Mike Elkins, being a defensive whiz, will have a good defensive plan. And that quarterback for Duke is back, who was so good last year, pretty special. And he thinks Duke will beat Clemson in Durham to open the season.
Wow. Now, I think the more plausible argument he's making is that Florida State may be getting closer to being back. That makes a whole lot more sense to me than Clemson losing to Duke to open the season. Boy, if that were to happen, could you imagine how Tiger fans would feel coming out of that weekend?
I don't want to imagine that, but that would be.
No, I just can't see that.
Yeah, I mean, bless their little hearts at Duke. They're trying to be, good in football, but they don't have the overall talent of Clemson.
No.
And if Klubnik is as good in this offense as people think he's going to be, then he's going to be pretty good. And some receivers will emerge, and they'll get the running game going, and the defense is going to be good. All right, we'll pick up on that tomorrow night. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, everybody. See you tomorrow.